Okay, so round 13 of the URC. So we saw a lot of teams with weakened sides, either due to the fact that, South African teams were resting their frontline players, maybe for European competition. And then the other teams, the Six Nations sides, they had a lot of call-ups to squads for that as well. So we saw a lot of players who don't start every week, and players making debuts either in the starting lineup or off the bench and that kind of thing. And, some players really took their opportunity and stood out. And then we had also the kind of the old stalwarts of teams as well, who are maybe, beyond their international career, but can still do a job at their club as well. So some really good performances this weekend. We start with Scarlets 37, Bulls 28. So the Bulls actually started this one fairly well. Berger gets them, on the board, a try after 4 minutes. But then, before the 20-minute mark, Scarlets have responded with 3 tries of their own. They have a fairly decent halftime lead. The Bulls do end up with getting the 4 tries to the bonus point, but then a late McNichol try adds a bit of gloss to the Scarlets' scoreline and puts the result beyond doubt as well, denying the Bulls a chance of a losing bonus point there. The next game then, Friday game, we had Ulster 35, Stormers 5. So Ulster looked like they're back to form in this one. It was a much changed Stormers side, but still Doak had a really good game for them at 9. Cooney come on about the 60-minute point as well. So it's going to be interesting little battle between those two. And then we have the kind of this side story as well of, Cooney in discussions about switching allegiances to Scotland, which would mean that maybe there isn't a place for him in Ulster, because the Irish provinces, they're only allowed 3 non-Irish qualified players, and if he becomes that, then they've already got Vermeulen there, and who else is? They've got Kitsoff coming at the start of next season. So whether there's going to be room there for Cooney or not, that's kind of, it's for the future, but it's still an interesting little side story. But yeah, Ulster in this one, fairly dominant. They, some good young players as well. The likes of Moxham out on the wing gets himself a try. He did well in defence too. And they were just kind of out of sight by 60 minutes. Stormers then got a consolation try in the last few minutes for them. But kind of right from the start, you could see that Ulster were on it and that they were going to win that one. And, third versus second in the table as well. Ulster, obviously their bad run of form allowed the Stormers to overtake them, and now they'll be determined to try and, for the rest of the season, pip them to second place. Into Saturday's games then, we have Benetton 30, Munster 40. So this one, Benetton started really well. They get out, they get a couple of tries, through Zanon and Mendy, and then Munster start to just slowly build their way back into the game. And in the second half, then Munster took control. Carberry was much better than his outing the previous week, where he looked like he was affected by the fact that he had been not selected for the Ireland's Six Nations squad, but much better from the tee as well, an all-around game, much improved. We had a hat-trick for Mendy. He got the third right at the death, to make this score look a bit closer than it was overall. But yeah, Munster back to form, and although they haven't lost against Benetton, and I think now it's 11 away in a row away to Benetton that they've won, still Benetton are a formidable team, at home, and Munster just showing that they're beginning to reach the levels that they want to reach with that win. Next, then we have Dragons 28, Glasgow Warriors 42. So Warriors get out to a big lead, a couple of tries in the first 10 minutes. Dragons do respond with quick fire double, Williams and Tompkins, about 3 minutes apart between them. But then Glasgow, hit back again, and by half time they've already got the bonus point try through Weir. Second half then was kind of even between the teams. The Dragons couldn't really close the gap. They were always kind of, Warriors get a try in 47 minutes, and Basham for the Dragons responds. Cancellieri goes over with about 5 minutes to go for Warriors. Game is done, and then Coleman gets the bonus point try for the Dragons on the last minute of the game as well. But it's still good to see that there's a bit of fight in the Dragons, but they've got to the point now where you really, I've said it before, feel like they need to be producing results as well. They can't just be plucky losers, because that's what they were kind of previously, whereas they showed a bit more dog kind of around the rounds kind of 4-3 to 10 or something it was. I think that they really showed a bit of fight, but that's kind of left them now. So hopefully they can take something out of this and get themselves another win at least before the end of the season. They are playing Leinster next though, so maybe that won't be the one that the win comes in, but if they do, it would be some G up for them if they could manage that. But speaking of Leinster 38, Cardiff 14. So Leinster, as with all the other teams, have to make plenty of changes, but they still have a nice solid core in the team there. We've got the likes of McGrath at fly half, back row of Ruddock, Penny and Deegan in there, all very decent players, some of whom have represented Ireland in the past. Deegan is was talked about as a big one for the future. Hasn't quite reached those heights yet, but he had a really great game. He was actually the man of the match there. But yeah, Leinster just completely blew them away. They were 31-0 up, I think, before Cardiff get their first try. Cardiff get a couple of tries to make it look a little bit better, but then Leinster tack another one through Turner, who had a really great game in the centres. For them, some really good performances. And then Leinster as well, in the last kind of 20 minutes or so, just brought on a bunch of academy players as well. Tector gets on, gets some points on the board, replacing Harry Byrne, who was playing at 10. First start in a long time for Harry Byrne at 10. Hopefully he can stay fit through this coming period so that he can actually get some game time while his brother Ross and Sexton are away with the Ireland team for the Six Nations. By the way, there's a full review of the Ulster, Stormers, Benetton, Munster, and this one, Leinster, Cardiff, on the channel as well if you want to check them out. Next, then we have Edinburgh 19, the Sharks 22. So Sharks, good start for them. Williams gets over after 5 minutes. Then McBurney gets a double for Edinburgh, either side of a second try for the Sharks. So fairly close. Then Edinburgh nudged themselves ahead just before half time. Immelman getting over for them. But then Second half, close game. Edinburgh don't score a single point. And that's ultimately what cost them, because, Sharks clawed their way back with a penalty at the start of the half. Then Van Buren goes over with about 20 minutes to go. And then Sharks hang on for the win. Would have expected Edinburgh to at least, score a penalty or two in the second half, or get over the line again, but they just couldn't do it. And this could be an important result in the shake-up at the end, because Edinburgh now are just outside of the playoff places because of this result, and obviously the results from other teams as well. Then we have Connacht 43, the Lions 24. So Connacht, they get over after 2 minutes. Lions respond, but then Delahunt and Blade, who got a hat-trick, go over again before half-time. O'Halloran as well. So Connacht have their bonus point try by half-time. The Lions have 2 tries as well, but Connacht just in front there. Then Blade gets another 2 tries to complete his hat-trick in the second half, before the Lions then, through low, get their third try. Jack Carty, so I'm wearing my Connacht jersey today in honour of him, because he overtook Eric Elwood as Connacht's all-time leading point scorer, record point scorer in that game. So that's a massive achievement from him. The guy, I feel, got a rough deal after the 2019 World Cup. He shouldered a lot of the blame for Ireland's poor performance over there. And, but there's no denying the guy's ability. Like, he's pretty accurate from the tee, and he can make, on his day, he can make a backline sing as well. So congrats to him, and congrats to Connacht as well on a really good win for them. They've been coming good, again at the right kind of part of the season. Lions are kind of almost going in the opposite direction. I feel like that they had that period at the start of the season where they were, winning away a lot, but then they had like the home period where they couldn't actually buy a win at home as well. So it's going to be interesting to see where these two teams finish the season. And then the final game then on Sunday was Zebre 24, Ospreys 28. So Ospreys quick-fire double after 5 minutes. They got 2 tries on the board. But then Zebre worked their way back into the game. Van Wyk goes over. Then they have a double from Fox Matamua before half-time. Gets them into the lead. Then, who was it? Andrani goes over for their bonus point try. And we've got about 30 minutes to play. Zebre are looking good. Ospreys are, making mistakes, and they're kind of finding it difficult to respond. But then Ospreys bring Myler on at 10, and he then steers them. He gets the likes of, Morgan Williams into the game. Morgan Williams scores the winning try in the end, but Myler had a big hand in actually, steering them to that victory. I thought that Zebre were going to do it to right at the end. They had a chance. They kicked the ball into the corner and they set up the maul, but then the ball just kind of drops out of the maul and goes forward, and that's it. Game over. But Zebre, they've had so many close calls at home now this season that you just feel that the win is going to come eventually. But every time they go close, they almost, I wouldn't say that they find a way to lose, because that's not really fair on them, but generally the opposition find a way to just come over the top of them and get the win. But I do hope, for the sake of Zebre and Italian rugby, that by the end of the season they do get that win, because the performance like this deserve them to not finish the season winless, because they have come close on so many occasions, and I'd say that they'd swap all of those though for just one win. Now we are going to have a look at the table. So leading the way, we have Leinster 13th from 13. They've got a massive points gap down to the Stormers, even though Stormers do have that game in hand that they will be playing next Saturday, right, on the 4th. So they're going to be away to the Sharks. So that one, if the Stormers lose that one and then Leinster win their next 2 games, then Leinster can't be caught for first spot with 3 more rounds to go in the regular season. So that's how dominant they've been this year. But for Leinster, it's going to be about that pointy end of the season. They're not going to want to finish the season, 18 from 18 in the regular season and then not come away with a trophy at the end of it. That's where their sights are going to be, especially with Lancaster leaving. They're going to want, obviously, the dream is to get the double, for him to leave and then to get the double and get that 5th star for the Heineken Cup. But at a minimum, I'd say this year they want to win the URC title, claim it back from the Stormers. But in second place, we do have the Stormers, who lost Ulster, who are now closing the gap in 3rd place. So it's going to be an interesting battle between those two towards the end of the season to see who comes out on top and gets that 2nd seeding. The Bulls then are in 4th place, and we see that the table is beginning to tighten up a lot now, because like these 3 from 2nd to 4th there used to be a fair gap from them down to the rest of the pack, and the others were just kind of scrapping out for the minor places. But now the likes of Glasgow in 5th place and Munster in 6th can see that it's possible for them to get over the top of the Bulls and maybe like even Ulster and the Stormers to get home quarterfinals for the knockout stages. Then the Benetton in 7th place and the Sharks in 8th round out at the moment the qualifying spots for knockout rugby. But then again, you can see it's so tight. Edinburgh just a couple of points back in 9th place. Point behind them is Connacht. A point behind them we have Cardiff in 11th, Ospreys in 12th, and then finally a little bit of daylight, but not even that much down to the Lions in 13th. But Lions poor run of form means that they're kind of dropping away from that pack. Scarlets then in 14th place as themselves and the Dragons are kind of swap places now. Dragons down in 15th place, and unless they can produce that win, it's going to be a very familiar thing for them that the bottom 2 is going to be the Dragons and Zebre. And talking to Zebre there down in 16th place. So the next game in the URC is going to be the game from round 1 between the Sharks and the Stormers, which is going to be played on the 4th of February. And then after that, we are back for round 14 in February. So February 17th will be round 14. So I'll see you guys back there for that, but I will be doing some coverage of the Six Nations coming up as well.